I don't think anybody in Cleveland has capacity left to deal with late game drama with the Cubs. Luckily for the Guardians, they have the man with the lowest heartbeat and the lowest ERA in baseball closing out games.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the show today. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs wind down. The sports stop sporting like we want. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster bonus daily. That's right. Something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today. Are we lined up? Our everydayer David was complaining. Sorry, we're at different distances. It's never going to happen.
Our heads are proportionate, though, so it's okay. Guardians got a lot of runs off of Shota Imanaga, which hasn't happened a whole lot this year. Unfortunately for the Guardians, the bullpen could not keep it a relatively light game, but they managed to do enough of the game to win that one. We'll talk about too much drama versus the Cubs. We'll talk about Emmanuel Clase and how much he has saved the Guardians this year. And another reliever that saved the Guardians, who also pitched in this game, but didn't give up runs, even though there was a lot of relievers in this game who did give up runs. We'll talk about other options in the bullpen and if Cleveland can survive this rough bullpen stretch. We'll also get into balancing out the lineup, which is very right-handed heavy at the time. And we'll also, I think we're going to get into some of the promotions, the minors today that happened. And it was quite the day for prospects moving up in the system. So we can get into all that.
Yeah, it was a crazy day on a lot of levels. Let's just be honest, a lot of levels. I had some heart palpitations, but I'm still here. And for those who don't know me, I'm Jeff Ellis, one of the co-hosts of Locked On Guardians. Have been here since the start of the Locked On MLB network. Before that, I was a lead draft and prospect analyst at Scouting 24/7. Yesterday's number was 7 for wins over the Twins. Today, I had it and I lost it. I forgot what I was going to be. Today, I'll say your 15th. This is no way anyone's going to get this one. Your 15th favorite blogger that has or will ever exist.
That should be a really fun one to try to figure out. I'm Justin Ladd, the other co-host. I've been covering the Guardians minor league system all the way back since 2007. You might have read me at places like Guardians Baseball Insider, the News Herald, the Morning Journal, and Prospects Live, where I did not write about the Guardians or the Indians and the Cubs in the World Series. And I think a lot of people in Cleveland still have way too much PTSD from late game drama with the Chicago Cubs. This should have been an easy one, Jeff. Shota Imanaga has the case for NL Rookie of the Year. He has been fantastic this season, and the lineup did a great job. They got a lot of runs. I mean, John Noel hit 2 home runs. I know one was off of Nate Pearson, but one of your favorite relievers of all time. But he hit a home run off Imanaga, which the ball was like at his shins. He reached down and barreled it up, so good for him. Quan had a great day. At least he had the home run, which was huge, 2 walks. Josh Naylor had a great day. Austin Hedges had 2 hits, even though he tried to turn one single into a double, which I'd love to know where his wheels were turning on that one, because it certainly wasn't happening with his legs. The offense was great, though. They had 7 runs by the 5th inning. This should have been a laugher. Best bullpen in baseball most of the year, and unfortunately, the bullpen's getting a little bit tighter these days, so we got to talk about that. But overall, let's just say, offense hit a very good pitcher. The offense looks like it's in a better place than it has been lately. Thank goodness for the Guardians' sake. They survived an ugly Ben Lively start. That's 2 in a row. I know Jeff was saying before the show, should we, talk about if we're about Lively? I think it's back-to-back games with 4 walks for him. I think he'll corral the control in place. I'm not ready to hit any sort of panic button on Walters, not when we have to talk about the bullpen, but I know people are going to say they won the game. Why are you being so negative? They scored. So there you go. They scored 7 runs off a really good pitcher. I know the Cubs defense didn't necessarily help him out. They had, he had 4 unearned runs because a bunch of balls went off of like Dansby Swanson somehow, which, who's normally a great defender. At least he used to be.
Well, I think at the bottom of the inning, like that was just a hard play to get across and get to. Like this isn't like Rocchio double pumping. Like, and listen, I want to get into a few things. 1, you can't throw all your pitchers every single day. 2, as much as people are going to be out there screaming for Barlow's head on a platter, bring me the head of Scott Barlow, in terms of referencing there. But if Rocchio makes the throw, Barlow hits one dude and gets out of the inning. So really, to me, and then Rocchio follows that up with another terrible throw. For a guy who's calling card his defense and he's the defensive replacement, like a lot of this is on him. Now Sandlin was poop again, and there's no easy way around it. Like Sandlin, half the pen you can't rely on. Heron has had a rough stretch here as well. But to me, like the real takeaway, as much as everyone's going to focus on the bullpen, it's Rocchio biffing that throw. Because if he makes that throw to first base, they get the out, the inning's over, it's 8-3. And none of this other stuff happens. And you know what? You still see Sandlin in this game probably, and you see him throw the final 2 innings instead of having Clase for a third day in a row. As good as he's been, like that's not ideal. Like that throw is the biggest moment in this game to me.
It was, yeah. The double clutch should have been the inning, and then for the relay in from left field also cost them extra runs. And then you can say Barlow didn't. I mean, it can be both ways. You can say Barlow. I know people are going to be like, you're focusing on the negative. They won the game. And I'm just going to reiterate again. The offense was great. Clase was great. Pedro Avila was great. We're going to talk about him too in a second. But the issue here is Clase shouldn't have had to pitch because you should have had a laugher here. You should have had a game where your biggest arms had the night off. I mean, Cade Smith was not available. Hunter Gaddis was not available. Clase should not have been available, but you had to kind of break glass in case of emergency here. And thank God for Emmanuel Clase. Let's talk about being positive here for a second. Clase is having a ridiculous season. I mean, he threw 20 pitches on Sunday, and he had to work hard because the Twins got a couple of guys on. He had some bad ball luck, which happens to him. He threw 13 pitches on Saturday. So he had 33 pitches in 2 days coming into this one. So he's thrown 43. I mean, he threw 10. So he's thrown 43 pitches in 3 days. He is definitely not going to pitch today on Tuesday. You'll have Gaddis and Smith back. You'll have Heron available. You'll have Morgan and Strzelecki, and you'll have Barlow available. But man, thank God for Clase, because I mean, there just aren't a lot of relievers that go 3 days in a row, especially guys that are high octane like him. His season is just incredible. Like I've seen some people talk about like Cy Young voting, and it's very, very hard for relievers to win the Cy Young award. I know Eric Gagne did it. Was that like 02, I want to say? And that was like he's converted to like 56 straight saves or something crazy. Zach Britton, I know, got some down ballot votes in 2016. And I think Clase will get down ballot votes for Cy Young. It's just so hard for relievers, but he definitely deserves down ballot votes because he is having a ridiculous season. I mean, it's a .81. He
should be in the top 5. He should be in the top 5. In my opinion.
It's not a great group this year. Like it's Corbin Burns and like who else is having?
There's been 9 relievers since 2006 that have won the Cy Young. Mike Marshall, Bruce Sutter, Steve Bedrosian, Mark Davis, Sparky Lyle, Raleigh Fingers, Willie Hernandez, Dennis Eckersley, and then Eric Gagne in 03. Fingers, Hernandez, and Eckersley won the Cy Young and MVP that year.
Wow.
But yeah, that's
Gagne was incredible. He was just a menace with that changeup. Clase, he just has the cutter and supposedly they were saying he's got another pitch now. He's working on some kind of like 4-seam sinker or whatever's going on there. But if I'm a hitter, I'd be terrified to know that guy might have another pitch that I have to watch out for. But he's just having an all-time great season. I mean, it's one of the best of all time. And again, you didn't want to have to go to him tonight, but thank God he was available. And he was, we were kind of sitting here warming up, in the bullpen ourselves, just kind of getting ready to record this episode. And the first 2 pitches Clase threw were not the greatest looking pitches he's ever thrown. And I was like, oh, third day in a row, this can be rough. And then he came out and, he blew Nico Horner away and he blew away Dansby Swanson, and just incredible. I mean, thank God they have that guy at the end of games. He's better than, I can't believe I'm saying this. He's better than Cody Allen. He's better than Andrew Miller.
Yeah.
He is by far the best reliever in franchise history already. And
yes, him and Jose, they have 2 guys on this team, as weird as it is to say, who I think are like all timers. They have they're all the best closer and best third baseman in the history of this franchise. If you want to go back, I actually did that before Justin was here. I think like 2021.
2020. Oh, okay.
I think it was 2021, that offseason.
I pitched
I went through and did every single like position review, like the greatest player at every position. Their base has a lot of high war guys who just got all defense in like the pre-1950s. But yeah, it's very clear Jose and Clase are at the top of that list. And the all-time bullpen was just pretty hard to put together, honestly. It's not a great group.
It's great. So thank God for Clase. He won't be available Tuesday, but thank God for him. I mean, you had a chance to win thanks to the offense. Naylor and Jose had the double in the 9th, which was great, or the 8th, which was great. Good at bat for Will Brennan. We can talk about Will Brennan a little bit here in the second segment. Having a good at bat there, and then Josh Naylor coming through. He had a nice day. And then you said, screw it. We have to go to Class A. You have to win the game. You have a lead. You have to go. And because the other option was Eli Morgan. There was nobody left besides those two guys. And it was like, we have to win this game and we'll figure out tomorrow. And, every game is a playoff game at this point because you're trying to clinch, the division. You're trying to keep your lead. And
the Twins have an easy one with the Royals in town. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm being a jerk.
Oof.
Being a jerk.
Brady Singer over there. No surprise. Yeah, so thank God for Class A. Thank God he was available, and no Stephen Vogt made the right call there. I know a lot of people have been questioning his relief choices recently, but going to Class A there, as risky as it was the right call, and you'll figure out tomorrow, and then hopefully you get a good game from Matt Boyd, and hopefully some of these relievers bounce back. We'll talk about the rest of those relievers. We'll talk about other options for the bullpen. We'll get into balancing out the offensive side of this roster. And hopefully we'll get into some prospect promotions on a big day. Guardians win and a big day in the minors with promotions all coming up on today's Locked On Guardians.
But first, let's talk about our good friends over at Ibotta. And doesn't the name kind of say it all? You Ibotta, and now you're going to get savings because of that. So the way Ibotta works is that, when you buy items, you use the app and get money back. It's a free app that lets you earn cash back every time you shop. Earn hundreds of items from groceries to beauty supplies, even toys. So make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average user earns $256 a year. Other apps give you points that don't amount to much. Not Ibotta. They're going to let you pick between various gift cards or put money directly into your account or your PayPal. You can save on over 2,400 brands and over 1,000 retailers. It's time to join the 50 million users who use Ibotta every day to save cash, and we're going to help you by giving you free money. That's right. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 for trying Ibotta by using the code LOCKEDONMLB when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store, download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back, and use code LOCKEDONMLB. Who doesn't want free money? That's IBOTTA in Google Play or the App Store, and use that code LOCKEDONMLB. FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. It's been hard in our house right now with the Olympics being over. My daughter adored the Olympics. The gymnastics, the swimming, the archery, all of this appealed to her. We're already looking forward to the Paralympics. But right now, the problem is I love baseball, but that's all you got. With everything winding down, we got fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to, but FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app, dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster bonus daily. That's right. There is something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball.
After you're finished listening to us over here on Locked On Guardians, we appreciate you making us your first listen wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. After you're done with our episode, check on our buddy over at Locked On MLB, our pal Sully. He will recap all the big goings on in Major League Baseball, all the MVP races, maybe the Cy Young race. Maybe we'll talk about Emmanuel Clase. We'll certainly talk about the AL Central race. The Guardians are tied for the best record in the American League again. Check all that action out on Locked On MLB with our pal Sully. Wherever you get podcasts, Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Jeff, your bullpen, your pitching staff, without looking in these stats real quick, I want to ask you this. Guardians pitching win leaders for the season. Give me your top 4 guesses for win leaders. We love pitcher wins on this podcast. So
pitcher wins are literally 4. The worst stat in baseball. They're the most worthless stat.
Which is what you're going to guess.
And people win leaders because here's the thing: you can pitch terribly and get a win, or you can have someone on the show brought up how you can have a perfect game and still lose a baseball game. So that's why pitcher wins have no reflective value. This isn't like the RBI where there's some degree of reflective value. This is literally the worst stat in baseball, bar none. So don't come at me in the comments about this one. Listen, RBIs, I get it. This one is just bad. It does not reflect anything. It doesn't. Pitcher wins are crap. I'm not answering your question. I refuse to take a guess. I am opting out. I'm canceling because there's no value to pitcher wins.
Oh, well, I will just tell you that with his win tonight, Nick Sandlin moves into 4th place on the Guardians roster.
Exactly. Thank you. You made my point.
Nick Sandlin won this game. Oh, man. Pitcher wins are wild. Ben Lively leads the team with 10. Tied with Tanner Bybee. And 3 is a guy who's not even in the rotation right now, and Logan Allen.
You're just making all of my points.
Pitcher wins. I love pitcher wins.
They are.
Oh, yeah. So Nick Sandlin gets the win. We're sitting here, crying, woe is the Guardians bullpen because Nick Sandlin and he.
Can we also point out, I told you, so before the show started, just to show where my mind is breaking down. I'm like, let's talk. I have 2 things I want to talk about tonight. 2. Who starts at 2? Like I literally did. I was like, wait a second, that's not right. That's
off the rails.
This was our pregame was off the rails. So, but I also want to point out, like, I've had a lot of people will be like, we got to get rid of like A, B, C, and D. The problem is, again, go back to last week's show. Alamon hasn't pitched since May. He's not an option. Enright hasn't pitched since April. He is not an option. Misiazic and Miklo Jack have thrown all of like 5 appearances. There's Andrew Walters, and then there's Andrew Walters, and then there's Andrew Walters, and then your other choice is Andrew Walters. That's about it. Unless, Justin has a theory on how to maybe get a second pitcher, and he and I have gone back and forth on it. It's one of the few things we've debated, but like there is one choice. And then after that, due to health, and I'll throw this out again. Thank goodness for Pedro Avila. Everyone who complained when they signed him, and I had people telling me like, hey, they have so many options in AAA. They don't need him. This is, disrespectful to those guys. They have needed Avila. He might be your leverage guy now. He might be their 4th most reliable reliever. So, I think it's to the point where, like, Alex Cobb's going to be great. Matt Boyd's going to be great. Do you know why I know they're going to be great? Because this team doesn't miss on pitching. Like, when they have that time to do advanced scouting, for as much as we didn't love Avila, that's worked out pretty well.
Yeah, Tim Herron's had some issues lately. He's been okay. The numbers are still better in the second half, shockingly. So I'm not worried about Tim Herron as much for them. Scott Barlow, I know a lot of people are gonna go off on Scott Barlow tonight. And again, we talked about Rocchio. If Rocchio makes that first play, the inning's over. We're just discussing how the Guardians had a big win against the Cubs, and Clase didn't pitch and all this other stuff. Barlow, again, is sort of, I don't want to say he's not quite as good as Brian Shaw. I know Brian Shaw was a favorite whipping boy for years in Cleveland, despite how solid he was. Barlow is Shaw-esque, where he will have 6, 7, 8 outings in a row where he's good. He doesn't allow a run. And then he has 1 or 2 outings in a row where he does get into some trouble, and then he kind of rebounds. And right now he is just in one of those stretches. Like he had so Barlow, before the Baltimore series, when things started getting a little rough for him, he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 straight scoreless outings. And then he gave up runs in back-to-back outings. And then he had a scoreless outing against Arizona. And then he had 1 out against the Twins that he got. And then tonight, on Monday, he wasn't great. So he's been a little shakier lately. The walks and the control haven't been there. Barlow, I think, is going to be fine. It is Nick Sandlin who is really the issue right now. It's been getting worse month by month. April, he was one of the best relievers in baseball. We talked about how he was coming in. He was near a lock for double play and a shutdown inning. His FIP by month, 381 April. 291 in April, 448 in May, 858 in June, 538 in July, 918 in August, and that's before Monday night's disaster. It's going the wrong direction for Nick Sandlin. And I mean, before we even get into the Andrew Walters of it all, to steal your phrase, you have to maybe reconfigure how you're deploying the bullpen. Like, you're right. I think you almost have to consider Pedro Avila as a guy that you have to use to set up things right now. Like, he's been your long man, which is great. I guess the other side of that is if you say, okay, Pedro Avila, you're now going to be the guy that helps us get to Smith, Gaddis, and Clase while we help Barlow and Sandlin work through these issues, and Heron's still in there somewhere. The other issue is, let's say that, on the nights where Lively or Boyd or Cobb are only going 4 innings or 5, or they're getting into the 5th and they can't finish the 5th, is the first guy out of your bullpen really going to be Nick Sandlin? I mean, you can use Smith there, but at some point, if you get a 5-inning outing or a 4-inning outing out of Cobb or Boyd or Lively, and you go to Smith to hold down the fort, at some point to get to Gaddis and Clase, you're going to need Sandlin. So the question is, you can move a guy like Barlow or Sandlin into a low leverage spot. The problem for the Guardians is they haven't had a lot of low leverage spots recently to do this with. Tonight should have been one. Monday should have been one for both those guys, but it wasn't. You just had some other guys who needed nights off. You can't pitch all these guys every night, as we've learned all year. But I guess you run into the issue is if you do have a short start, you could bring in Cade Smith to bridge you a little bit, but then at some point you're going to need Sandlin if you're going to move Avila to the back end, sort of, which is wild. I can't believe we're sitting here on August 12th and we're saying, are they going to have to move Pedro Avila somewhere near the back end and move someone else up? I don't know.
I think that's where you got Eli Morgan. Morgan was a starter for a good chunk of his career. He's a guy who kind of makes some sense in that role.
How much do you trust him, though?
I mean, I trust him more than Sandlin. If you're going to move Avila, I think he is the natural guy to take over the long spot. Or, if Carrasco gets healthy, we talked about moving him to the pen. But I think Sandlin, you're removing Sandlin to bring in Walters, so Walters gives you maybe another back end option. Like, that is the thing. If you are doing it, and all the data points to at this point that he's done, like
they need to push the button. It's time for Walters.
Walters is turned it on. He's had like one bad outing in the last 2 months. He's figured out the level. He is. Are people still saying he what is it, like he did his assignment or whatever that expression was? I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. He did his homework. He did his homework, right?
No, assignment. Yeah.
He understood the assignment and he's adapted to it and he's fine. So like he is ready, in my opinion. I could be wrong. It's just my opinion, but I think he's ready to go.
He's ready in the sense they need him more than they need another option.
And I think Sandlin has to go out. And if you're going to move Avila up and Morgan's still here, then Morgan's the long guy. If Carrasco is ready to come back, personally, I send down Morgan as well because Morgan has never been good in the second half. And I have Carrasco as the long guy. Avila is your in between. You got Walters because right now, I mean, who else? Okay, come back in segment 3 and Justin will explain maybe who he thinks could be the additional reliever before we talk about 8,500 moves in the minors.
Yeah, and we're still trying to get to that whole conversation about bringing up other infielders and other left-handed batters at some point too, which we'll get to. The Guardians are looking for some reliable relievers. You can get reliable supplies from the site that's made for skilled trades. The SupplyHouse.com, reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Easy to use website, has helpful resources, the latest product info to get the job done right. No drama late in the game with SupplyHouse.com. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts, 400 top brands. Get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. If you need help with an online order, you can get extra expert support from the industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business. And you talk to a real person every time. It's like calling the bullpen phone. Pros in these skilled trades can get competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at SupplyHouse.com/T-M and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at SupplyHouse.com. Guardians and Cubs back at it at 6:40 on Tuesday. Catch all of the home call with Tom Hamilton and Jim Rosenhaus on your Sirius XM app. Just search Guardians. That is the Guardians debut of Matt Boyd. And I think for the Cubs, did I get that right? Was it Jameson Taillon? No, it's Javier Assad. I'm sorry, Javier Assad. Jameson Taillon is who
has come back to earth. Like Javier
Yeah,
Assad
that'll
was
be an
one of the
interesting
great
game.
stories at the start of the year, and he's still an okay starter, but like he was one of those guys that really got hyped up, and now he's like, I mean, his FIP is pushing north, his xFIP is pushing north. He's walking more
Yeah.
guys. He doesn't miss a lot of bats. Like he's a borderline starter after being one of the kind of fun stories of the first 2 months of the year.
The problem is he's right-handed, Jeff, and the Guardians right now. Well, first, okay, before we get into the right-handed lineup, I don't know. Could you try John? I almost said John Canzano. Could you try? Maybe you should try John Canzano. I don't know. Could you try Joey Cantillo or Tristan McKenzie in a bullpen role?
You've been pushing for Cantillo, and you're slowly warming me up to this idea. McKenzie, I've often thought that might be his best role. I kind of came off of that when he started to perform better as a starter, but it maybe wouldn't be the worst thing, especially if you can allow him to get some confidence at the level that he's at. Cantillo, I'm not gonna steal your thunder. You can explain that one. That's all you.
I mean, the control isn't great overall, and he has home run problems, but we've seen him hit 97 before as a pitcher in a short burst. I think he could even do more than that if he's just dedicated to being a reliever. He's got 3 good pitches. He's got the fastball, which will play up in the pen. I like the curveball quite a bit. I think that's a usable pitch for him. He's obviously got a great changeup. I think he can get lefties out. I think he can get righties out and get you 3 to 5 batters. And it really looks like this team's going to need another left-hander. It doesn't sound good for Sam Henches. So I don't know what you're doing for another left-hander at this point. Like, you can't go to Andrew Misiazek because he's coming off Tommy John. You don't know what that looks like. They DFA'd Matt. They DFA'd Anthony Goes, so clearly they thought that wasn't the option. Like, there's nobody else to turn to as far as a second lefty, unless you sign Rich Hill. Does Rich Hill want to come back as a reliever? I don't know.
It went so well the first time,
Yeah, well, that was he was here in 2013? He was at 2016. Which year was that?
I can't even remember what year it was. I just know it was not great.
He was already here, so I don't know. Maybe Rich Hill's an option, but yeah, I don't know. I kind of like Cantillo in that bullpen role because then some guys do get a little bit better control in the bullpen if they can't maintain it as a starter because they're kind of like narrowing their focus a little bit. And I don't know. Guardians did have Cantillo come in as a piggyback starter a couple times in the minors just to work other guys in. So maybe he's prepared for that. I don't know. But I mean, here's the thing. I think we still have over a month in the season left. You have like 6 weeks left. You got to figure out what you're doing here with Barlow and Sandlin and what's going to happen. Your options are essentially Walters, maybe Cantillo or McKenzie. So it might be time to start pushing some buttons and figure out which combination works to get this thing right. Because again, we have to ask the question: can this team win a division? Can they go far in the playoffs with a really good bullpen, or do they need it to be elite? And the answer so far, I think, is they need it to be elite because you only have 3 guys and you can't go to them every day. Other guys they need to go to. We don't have as much time for this as we wanted, but the Guardians really need to find, I think, some balance against right-handed pitching because, David Fry has been really rough against righties the last several months. He's been rough against righties his entire career. And, you're kind of operating with him as a DH only now. He's played some first, but the elbow is still an issue. Stephen Vogt alluded to on Sunday that Fry is playing through multiple injuries. The elbow is one of them. He's essentially no longer a third catcher, which kind of hurts your versatility on this team, I think, a little bit. And he cannot face right-handers. Lane Thomas, he's really struggling. And I know we said he's not a platoon player, but until you can get him right and get him on the right track, maybe you do need to platoon him until he kind of figures things out.
A lot of guys press. Jess Winker, his teammates, also struggling. Like Randy Rosarina has been good, but again, we'll say Rosarina went for a package Cleveland couldn't match. And a lot of guys struggle on that transition. Hopefully he'll calm down. But yeah, right now, I agree. Thomas is a disaster. There's no way around it.
Yeah. Ironically, defensively, he's been really good, which who would have thought? I would consider playing him against lefties only. Although the hard part about that is then he has a hard time getting into rhythm. So you're kind of darned if you do, darned if you don't.
With his speed, like, okay, bat him 9th. Like, don't bat him 2. Like, I think that's the thing is like, if you want him to find his rhythm, then let him bat bottom of the lineup. Ideal 9 hitter. Well, not ideal with as bad as he's hitting, but potentially. Like, I mean, he's one of the fastest guys in baseball. Put him in that spot. take advantage of the defense, take advantage of the speed, and hoping that he can turn it around a bit.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't get the benefit of hitting in front of Jose at the top of the order when you do that, which I thought would be the big deal for him, which it was early on. His first 3 days were fantastic, and since then it's been tough. You need to explore options with. Look, at this point, I don't think they're going to move Jimenez to shortstop. I just don't. I think you and I both have sort of given up on the idea of Bazana being up in September. He's not.
It's not happening.
No, he just played back-to-back for the first time.
They're slow playing the heck out of him.
Yeah, and he's just getting his footing under him. And I want to believe Juan Brito's an option because he's playing well and they could use his approach, but it's like
his defense is poor. It just makes it hard.
There's no defensive fit, and you cannot play him at shortstop. Brito is not a shortstop. He's not playing shortstop in the minors because he's not a shortstop. It would have to be a combination of him playing second or right field.
His best position is DH.
It really is, in which case doesn't really help you.
You're looking at a 40, a 35-40 at second, a 35-40 great defender at you're going to go from the best defensive second baseman to one of the worst. And that's right. And they're not going to do that. So it's calling him up was more about playing some first and playing some right field.
Which he's done a lot in the minors. Yeah. And the other option is just Kyle Manzardo. The problem is right now, they have Will Brennan back up, who has hit the ball well. He had a nice at bat coming off the bench for Lane Thomas. Not Lane Thomas. David Fry coming off the bench David Fry. He had a good at bat and helped them win the game. So Brennan's up for the time being, which is fine because I think the idea of him sending him down was more about him getting his footing right again versus just being demoted. You can send Schneemann down because Freeman's playing some short. He's playing some outfield. Schneemann's a left-handed hitter, though, and you need some balance. I don't know where you send him down. And Noel had a huge night, and you can't send Noel down right now. But, I mean, Manzardo, I don't know who you send down for Manzardo because I think you need that bat in the lineup because you need somebody who can face right-handed pitching.
Call me crazy.
Struggling.
Well, no, call me crazy, but it's Fry's beat up. Put the guy in the DL. Let him recover. Noel and Fry, they're the same handedness. And they're essentially playing the same position. They're redundant. Yeah. So let Fry get healthy, let Noel play, figure it out from there. But I think that is the call with it. And if you get Manzardo, it's him and Noel are your platoon, and then Noel can occasionally play some games in the outfield when they're not platooning, and let Fry get healthy. If he's got a bunch of injuries, we want Fry at peak for the playoffs. We don't want him now at suboptimal.
Yeah, I guess the real question is, does a 10-day stint on the IL really solve his issues? That's what we don't know what the injuries are. We assume the elbow's still bothering him, other things, but you don't know if a 10-day stint is really going to solve things. Again, that's the real question.
Get him on sooner rather than later. If he's got to do 15 or 20, put him on now. Let's get that started so he can come back and get some at bats and get back in the flow of things. You're not doing him any favors by no one gets healthy playing through an injury.
No, that's true. He's been sitting a little bit more. He's playing more strictly on platoon, which is good, but you don't have the option of a third catcher anymore. And really the roster's tight because, you could send Schneemann down for Manzardo, I guess, but you're trying to stay left-handed. You're trying to get more balance, and he's already
you
need
the balance.
Yeah, it's tough, and you can't send Noel down because obviously what he did on Monday was huge, and you need that possibility still in this lineup. The other option is Rocchio, but they're not going to move him off a shortstop, and they're not going to move Jimenez off second, so it's tough. No. We didn't get to all the prospect promotions, but obviously if you're on Twitter, you've seen the news. Rafi Velasquez is in Lake County. A bunch of other guys have moved up. Cooper Ingle, hey, friend of the show, Cooper Ingle moves on to Akron.
Catcher.
Good for him.
All the catchers moving.
Jacob Cozart is in Lake County. I'm just going to go and point this out real quick. Cooper Ingle, we don't care about time at this point, do we?
No, and we got some extra. We were long on ads.
Yeah, so real quickly, I'm just going to point out Cooper Ingle, since he has come on Locked On Guardians back on June 17th. If my Twitter would ever load, it's just not loading right now. 308, 464, 542 with 6 homers, a 188 WRC plus. So if you are a Guardians prospect and you want the Locked On Guardians bump, join us. We'll get you promoted. That's how it works, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So we'll talk about Boyd's debut tomorrow. We'll talk about more September call-ups, and we'll talk about some of these prospect promotions tomorrow. I promise. Tomorrow.
No, we got to talk about some more of the promotions. We also have to give Gabby Arias some time because he's doing some things down there, and I think it is a matter of time, if not by September, that he will be back. So, yeah, it's 3 in a row. Go for one more. Go for it.
Winning streak, yeah, for all the negativity today, winning streak, 3 in a row. And also, I'll point out, it's too soon to really rely on this, but August 12th is a day where the Twins cannot gain a game on the Guardians, and it's too early to start thinking about this, but at some point the Twins will be up against the Guardians and the calendar, so we'll talk about that at some point.
Shout out to JRAM for Prez for your very kind iTunes review. We always give shout outs to everyone who leaves a review on iTunes. Make sure you're subscribed. I guess that's a thing you can do on iTunes now. Make sure you're rating, reviewing, doing everything. Thank you to all of our everydayers who have helped raise the floor on the show, but let's keep going. Let's do even more. But thank you to everyone who joined us, commented, had some fun, and go Guardians, go.